Hello Arsenal fans, welcome back to the channel. There is a lot happening around Arsenal as we enter the final days of the summer transfer window. The Gunners have already made major additions to Mikel Arteta's squad, but the feeling around the club is that the transfer business may still not be finished. And tonight, there are three names dominating the Arsenal transfer conversation: Julian Alvarez, Gabriel Martinelli, and Yildiz. There is also an important update on Arsenal's plans for the left side of the attack, plus developments that could determine whether Arsenal make one final blockbuster signing before the transfer window closes. So if you're an Arsenal supporter, make sure you stay until the end because this situation could move very quickly. Let's get straight into it. Let's start with the biggest story. Julian Alvarez to Arsenal is suddenly looking much more realistic. The Argentine striker remains one of Arsenal's major attacking targets, and the situation at Atletico Madrid has become increasingly complicated. Alvarez recently made his first appearance for Atletico this season against Villarreal, but instead of receiving a warm welcome from the home supporters, he was subjected to boos and whistles. The atmosphere surrounding the player has become extremely uncomfortable, and after the match, Alvarez did not join his teammates in the usual interaction with the supporters. That immediately created another wave of speculation about his future. Reports now suggest Arsenal are closely monitoring the situation. And the important point here is this: Barcelona may no longer be the obvious destination. That potentially gives Arsenal a much clearer opportunity. The Gunners have been interested in Alvarez for some time, and Mikel Arteta is believed to be a huge admirer of the Argentine. But there is one enormous obstacle: the price. Atletico Madrid are reportedly looking for around €150 million, approximately £128 million, to even consider selling Alvarez. That is an enormous amount of money. And Arsenal are not currently expected to pay that figure. So while the situation is developing in Arsenal's favour, this does not mean that Alvarez is about to sign for Arsenal. There is still a huge financial gap, but football can change very quickly, and the fact that Alvarez is now being booed by Atletico supporters has changed the atmosphere around the situation. Arsenal will be watching very carefully. There is another important part of this story. For much of the summer, Barcelona appeared to be the club most strongly associated with Alvarez, but Atletico have little interest in strengthening a direct La Liga rival, and Barcelona's financial situation makes a huge transfer even more complicated. That potentially leaves Arsenal with a window of opportunity. Imagine the situation from Alvarez's perspective. He is at Atletico. The supporters are unhappy. There is speculation about his future, and Arsenal are offering him the possibility of becoming one of the main attacking stars at the Emirates. That could be extremely attractive. Arsenal are also building a squad capable of competing for major trophies. The Gunners have already strengthened in several positions, and adding a player of Alvarez's quality would be another statement of intent. But Arsenal must decide how far they are prepared to go financially. Would they spend more than £100 million on one player? That is the question, because Atletico's valuation is extremely high, and Arsenal have already spent significant money this summer, so the next few days could tell us whether Arsenal are genuinely prepared to make a massive financial commitment, or whether they will move toward another target. Now let's talk about Gabriel Martinelli. This is another story that could have a huge impact on Arsenal's transfer plans. Al Hilal have made their interest clear, and reports say the Saudi club have submitted a bid in the region of £47 million for the Brazilian winger. Arsenal are understood to want closer to £60 million. So there is still a difference between the two clubs' valuations. But the important thing is that the offer has not simply been dismissed. Negotiations are continuing, and Martinelli's situation at Arsenal has become increasingly clear. He has been left out of Arsenal's recent matchday squads, and reports indicate that Arteta has explained directly to the player why he is currently outside the team. That is a major development. Martinelli has been at Arsenal since 2019. He arrived from Ituano as a relatively unknown young Brazilian and developed into one of Arsenal's most exciting attackers. He has scored important goals. He has played in major matches, and he has been an important part of Arteta's Arsenal project. But football is ruthless. The competition for places has increased. Arsenal have added attacking quality, and the club now appear prepared to consider selling Martinelli if the right offer arrives. Now let's move to another huge name. Yildiz, the Juventus attacker, has emerged as another player being discussed as Arsenal search for attacking reinforcements. Yildiz is highly rated and fits the profile Arsenal have been looking for. He is young, he is technically gifted, he can operate from the left, and he has the potential to become a major star. But there is a problem. Juventus do not want to sell him. Fresh reports indicate Arsenal have been told that Yildiz is not for sale. That makes any potential transfer extremely difficult. So although Yildiz may be an alternative name on Arsenal's list, fans should not assume this deal is close. It isn't. Juventus have made their position clear, and if Arsenal want Yildiz, they would likely have to make an enormous offer to even change that position. That is why Alvarez remains such an interesting situation. Now let's put all of these stories together. Arsenal's attacking situation is becoming very interesting. Martinelli could leave. Yildiz is extremely difficult to sign. Alvarez is available only at a huge price. And Arsenal have already brought in Christos Tzolis, who impressed during his early opportunities. So what exactly does Arteta want? Reports suggest Arsenal have prioritised adding another attacking player, particularly on the left side, but there is flexibility in their approach. That means Arsenal do not necessarily have to replace Martinelli with another traditional winger. They could potentially bring in a player who offers something different. And this is where Alvarez becomes fascinating. He is naturally a striker, but he can operate across the attacking line. That kind of flexibility could appeal to Arteta. It could give Arsenal more options tactically. Instead of having one fixed centre-forward, Arteta could move his attacking players around during matches. But again, the price remains the major obstacle. This could be the most important domino effect of the entire Arsenal transfer window. Imagine this scenario. Arsenal sell Martinelli. They receive around £60 million. They then have additional funds available. At the same time, Alvarez becomes increasingly uncomfortable at Atletico. Barcelona cannot complete the deal. Arsenal remain interested. Suddenly, the possibility of a negotiation becomes much more serious. But there is still a massive problem. £60 million from Martinelli is nowhere near Atletico's reported £128 million valuation for Alvarez. So Arsenal would still have to spend a huge amount of additional money. Would they do it? That is the $1 million or perhaps £128 million question, and Arsenal fans will be watching the answer very closely. Mikel Arteta now faces one of the biggest decisions of the transfer window. Does he continue with the squad he already has? Or does he push the club to make one more major attacking signing? Arsenal have already strengthened significantly. The squad has more depth, there is more competition, and Arteta has repeatedly spoken positively about the quality already available to him. But if Martinelli leaves, the balance of the attack changes. And if Arsenal believe they are genuinely capable of challenging for major honours, they may decide that one final attacking signing is necessary. That is why the final week of this transfer window could be extremely busy. So, Arsenal fans, here is where everything stands. Julian Alvarez remains the biggest attacking target. His situation at Atletico Madrid has become increasingly uncomfortable after the reaction from supporters. Arsenal have been given a potential opening, but Atletico's reported valuation of around £128 million remains a massive obstacle. Gabriel Martinelli could be heading toward the exit door. Al Hilal have reportedly made a bid of around £47 million, while Arsenal are looking for significantly more. Negotiations remain ongoing. Yildiz is another name Arsenal admire, but Juventus have made it clear that they do not want to sell him, making that option extremely difficult. And then there is the bigger question. Will Arsenal actually make one final blockbuster attacking signing before the transfer window closes? That is what we are all waiting to find out. So Arsenal fans, let me know what you think. Would you spend the money to sign Julian Alvarez? Would you accept around £60 million for Gabriel Martinelli? And if Martinelli leaves, should Arsenal go all in for Alvarez, or should they look for a younger and cheaper alternative? And what about Yildiz? Would you try to convince Juventus to sell him, even though they currently consider him unavailable? Personally, I think the next few days could be absolutely massive for Arsenal. The Gunners have already built a stronger squad, but the final pieces could determine just how ambitious this team really is. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and stay with us for every Arsenal transfer update. Because with the transfer deadline getting closer, anything can happen. Arsenal fans, this could be the final big twist of the summer. Come on, you Gunners!